This week in OSSEMOOC, we're taking some time to think about curation as an important digital literacy skill. We've taken a few minutes to look at the concept of social bookmarking, the idea that when we share the bookmarks that we create when we find good resources, it allows us to build a network of resources that other educators have shared as well. Today we're going to take a deeper look at curation as a professional practice, and we're going to use our day 12 from our November 30 Days of Learning to help us work through these ideas. So when we go to that page, we start out with kind of a reason for curation being such an important tool. We know that curation is very deep, and it's more than just organizing information. There's so much stuff on the web that really Googling things isn't going to do it for us anymore. We really need to go deeper and look at what other educators are sharing for a deeper understanding of the resources that are out there. So when we start curating, it causes us to be critical thinkers because we need to think very carefully about how we're sharing resources back so that we're sharing effectively with our network. It also causes us to reflect and learn because as we reflect on the content before we share it, it helps us to remember that information. Sue Waters has written extensively on the whole idea of curation, and if you click on the piece that's shown in the session, it will take you to her entire blog on creatively filtering content. And similarly, she writes that there's just so much out there that we're in a process of information overload, and it's very helpful to be a curator that can help us to organize and manage the information that's important to us. Curation is a life skill and an important part of being digitally literate. I would argue that educators can't really teach curation effectively to students unless they understand how to do it themselves. We know that curation is a really important part of students becoming digitally literate. There's a lovely resource on the session that shows you the connections among the different pedagogical approaches to curation and why it's such a critical piece of the kind of learning that students are doing today as students build their digital literacy and digital leadership skills. So some of those curation skills can include things like understanding how to use keywords and tags, how to scan text, to read and summarize content, build connections, choose resources that are appropriate to the purpose, share those resources, and promote and brand topics. Also, others would argue that curation is actually a mindset. It helps us to teach critical thinking, skills, and analysis. So by finding resources, critically analyzing them, and deciding that they're worth sharing back to our professional learning network, it does help us in that reflective practice as well. Of course, when you're curating resources, it's critical to make sure that you remember to credit the source of the resource, and I've emphasized that in this post as well. So in the bottom of the post, we've included a number of great resources on curation that we'll take a quick look at together. Barbara Bray has an amazing Scoop It page on curating learning, and so she's actually curating the idea of curation on a curation platform. It's really worth your time to look at. Of course, Language's blog is one of our favorites. We've mentioned it many times, and there's some great work here on how to work with students to build content knowledge through the idea of collaborating and curating. And the last one, the 50 best ways to curate and share your favorite social media and news content. A great session here on how to actually do the curation process. And we're going to walk you through some of the more popular curation platforms here at OSSEMOOC this week.